people, Deluded, I'm back again.
Come on, Ian, bro. Come on.
And just as Ian Wright said there, people, Deluded, I'm back again. Big up to you lot on Twitch and on YouTube. Good morning, good afternoon, good evening, and of course, in some cases, good night. Please do make sure you're smashing the like button, you're subscribing if you're new here, and get the creative juices flowing, man. Now, Arsenal fans, it's crazy the life we live in. We smashed City 5-1. We know the backdrop of the injuries and what we're trying to salvage this season. Spoiler alert, in case you didn't know, we signed nobody. It is what it is in that regards, people. And what I mean by that is 1,000,000% I'm disappointed. I'm still disappointed about the summer to even comprehend anything in January. I had, and again, it's the hope that kills. I thought the club would act purely because you've got no players. You know, let's be honest. A lot of our hopes pin on the young Lewis Skelly and the young Ethan, especially. Let's highlight the attacking sense, because our defenders have probably been the best thing this season. They're scoring goals, they're rattling Haaland, they're doing what they need to do in that regards. But our defenders look more clinical, and you know, it is what it is. We all knew in January, then I don't say this as an excuse, because regardless of players not being attainable, it being difficult, all these things, you have to pivot. We don't know what Mikel Arteta positively or negatively and the club at this moment in time have pivoted for. They've, you know, so there's no excuses, and these excuses are not exclusive to Arsenal. Everybody had difficult to do business, premiums on players, not necessarily wanting to sign a player because it might impact what you're doing in the summer. I'm not saying be reckless, but you cannot really tell me. And again, people, that's like when you ask questions over Arteta, and I'm not even getting into the Arteta in or out. They sit there and say, "Oh, who would you have replace him?" I'm just using that rhetoric, people. Who would you sign? It's not my job. It's just my job as a fan to praise and critique and ask questions. Support doesn't mean blindlessly just accepting everything. And whatever they say, cool. Watkins didn't happen. Sesko didn't want to sign. This one didn't want to happen. That one and the third people, that's cool. But for what I see right now, where you've got a 17-year-old Ethan, you've got Kai Havertz, you've got Gabriel Martinelli, you've got Trossard, and I might be missing out what Sterling on loan. Is there really someone that couldn't come into the mix? Because we're trying to have small hope of overcoming Liverpool in the Premier League title race, claw something back against Newcastle tomorrow, which we will be doing a watch along. And again, it's all fun and games talking about the Champions League. We don't, yeah, I know we're hearing Saka might return, but even with the Champions League, and this is all assuming that there's not one single injury. You know, you look at Declan Rice and Kai Havertz, two of our more durable players. Kai's missed a couple of games with injuries. Declan Rice had a broken toe a long while ago. So, yeah, fair enough. But for me, you know, for the fans, it's a bitter pill to swallow, but we're going to have to hold that it is what it is in that regards. This is what we've got. We can't control things. It is what it is, man. Just assume the worst and you won't be disappointed. Only 2 permanent outfield signings in the last 3 windows. Neither is first choice. Absolute shambles. Relic of a Havertz signing. The Havertz signing, I think he's done better than I expected. I think he pulls his weight a lot more than people. I think he's been a lot more consistent than his attacking colleagues, but it's not even a Kai Havertz thing. That is the issue with our club. If I'm saying this about Kai Havertz, this is not a team that wants to win a league title. This is a team that, for me, or an establishment that's happy with top 4. I don't think Mikel Arteta or the players, I've got criticisms for them, but I don't think they're happy with top 4. My criticism is more, you know, the fine margins that they haven't always controlled and gone about them, what Arteta's done well and what he's done wrong. We all know the Cronkies. They put you in a room. Well, we want to be self-sufficient. You're getting us Champions League football. It is what it is, people. So, yeah, and to be honest, in a circle, you was right. I think I gave the summer window a 5, 6 out of 10. I still mainly back Calafiori signing behind that and the outgoings. But, you know, you have to be right. It's a 3 or a 4 because you look at it now. I like Calafiori, and hindsight's a wonderful thing. But Lewis Skelly's taking your place. It doesn't mean you're a bad player. He's taking your place. Mikel Moreno, I think fans are a bit harsh, but we needed a game changer. You're not that. You're not playing to the level of Partey, and you ain't got that ability. Declan Rice is better than you in that 8. And if we're honest, there's still question marks around the midfield. Odegaard's been missing for half the season, really. He's still quality. They less said respectfully about Raheem Sterling, they're better. None of these guys are game changers or beyond being bodies gave us that boost that we needed to try and have a bit more optimism. Like, you know what? We finished 2 points behind City. We didn't get embarrassed in the champs. Maybe we could do a bit better. And a club that wants to win a title, and I'm talking away from Arteta now because the budget you've been allocated, you can't say you've spent it in the best way. Because again, the Cronkies could sit there and say, bro, he wanted goalies, we got him that. He wanted left backs galore, we got him that. He wanted Moreno, we got him that. He wanted this, he wanted that. As I said on the stream earlier this morning, literally, and big up you lot, it's like the Cronky, it's like if Arteta was your son and your cronkies, which are the dad. It's like you've taken them to a toy store or a supermarket. You've given them some money to spend. That's their business. If you've given them 50, 100 quid and they've bought pure sweets, if they've bought a magazine and whatever, then cool. It is what it is. He's going to have to hold that. Like, it's frustrating, man. They don't want, like, the people above Arteta. Again, we can talk about Arteta, but the people above Arteta clearly, they would like to win a Prem. They're not dying to win a Prem. And I'm an ignorant fan, but forgive me for my ignorance. But an owner or ownership where the ethos has to come from top down, they look at that January period. Even if everybody's fit, they should be going into it like, boy, you know what? Even though our fans and the sentiment isn't necessarily positive, we're still got a fair amount of, you know, it's kind of positive where our Premier League results are, rather than the fine margins that have gone against us. We're still in the champs. We're trying to claw this Liverpool side, which have Mo Salah. Maybe one player that gives us 2, 3, 4% could do stuff, but they didn't want to do that. The very fact that we're only reacting to Gabriel Jesus' injury in particular tells you all of that. Even if everybody's fit, none of the issues we faced in January or this current time are anything new at Arsenal Football Club. They were there in the summer. It's been elevated and it's more in the talking point because of the injuries, because we're not necessarily happy. And, you know, I genuinely believe this. I'm an ignorant fan, so you have to forgive me, people. But I think if it was a thing, we were 5th, 6th, 7th, and mathematically we could get top 4, but we have the exact same thing that's going on now. We needed a boost. I think I don't know if the players would have been good enough. I genuinely think we signed players. I genuinely think that. But because we look on course to at best finish first, worst case scenario, 3rd, 4th, probably going to finish 2nd. We've got enough. We're going to keep ticking over. The Cronkies are saying, you know what? Arteta is doing what he's done. We've got our long-term guy. We gave him a new deal. He's getting us Champions League. We're bringing out merch. It's all calm. And this season is about fine margins, because that's what gets you. We missed out by 2 points last year. It is what it is, and you're hoping for a, you know, football is romantic. You're hoping that the City game gives them a boost to overcome what we're going to face tomorrow against Newcastle, and going to Dubai gives us a boost. And, you know, if you beat Liverpool at Anfield, if Moyes can do you a favor, if Liverpool have a little bit of a slip up, things could happen. But for me, while that sounds great, and I guess that is a possibility, anytime life like football, you're reliant on variables and controllables that are not something you can control, you're at their mercy, aren't you? I'm not sure what you said here, Natalie. As Havard not played, then play Martinelli, Trossard, Ethan, and even Ethan. Like, you can't play every game. You're gonna need to, but you're gonna get fatigued. You're gonna get injured. You know, you're gonna have, as good as he's been. We have to give these young players scope for bad games. Ethan's been great. Skelly's been great. But they've not, you know, it's naive to expect they're going to be amazing for the rest of their Arsenal career. They're never going to have setbacks. You know, it was lovely from Lewis Skelly with the shithousery against Haaland. There's going to be, you know, City are going to be waiting for us next season at the Etihad. They're probably going to let Lewis Skelly have it if the shoe's on their foot. So it is what it is. Have to be calculated about where we play MLS and Ethan. Facts. Should the prize for winning the league be substantially larger than other positions? Does this need to change for owners to get serious? As far as I know, the money for finishing 1st and 4th is a couple M, and even that, yeah, we're not like we can obviously speak about Mikel Arteta, but let's just assume he won the Premier League trophy last season. Of course, the players we went for, you know, in the summer, Nico Williams might say, you know what, forget Barcelona and staying at Bilbao. I want to join them. Sesko might say, you know what, the manager's telling me I can't play instead of Kai Havertz, but they won the Prem. I want to sign. So obviously it can change the trajectory. But I genuinely feel, even if we won the league last year, I think we have a kind of the same. I think we have the same summer, if I'm completely honest with you. I genuinely think that we're not set up by the ownership of sustained success. I want to witness Arsenal win the Champions League before I die. I'm 29. I want to witness us retain the Premier League, which I haven't seen. So it is what it is, man. There's enough to be optimistic about, and there's some to be negative. It's your fault. Don't be deluded. Whatever that means. One love. Make sure you smash the like button. I feel sorry for Saka, Saliba, Gabriel, Rice. They are excellent players, potential world class, now stuck under this unambitious system and unserious owners. The window is a collective failure of the club. The lack of ambition with the current injury crisis is concerning. KSC clearly didn't want to spend the money to get decent reinforcements. All it takes is a bit more positive diagnosis with Benjamin White, Saka, a couple of other injured players, obviously excluding Gabriel Jesus, and we'll sit tight. You're already seeing the language out of the club already. It's like, once we get through what we got to get through now, we've got 10 days rest. There is a period where we're not playing three times in every 10 days. Arsenal fans, come on. We've seen this. We've been here. This is us, unfortunately. Like, it is what it is. Main problem with the summer sign is that none of them elevated us, and we didn't make the sales to buy an elevating player after bringing in Calafiori. Lazy management. We are coached so well, but managed so poorly. So yeah, and then obviously you've got the owners and you've got Mikel Arteta, which there's obviously issues that he's doing that's not getting us over the line. So you're at his mercy, really. It's a madness. Arsenal win 2 more goals. Newcastle play extra 30 minutes or direct penalties. I can't lie, I don't know. I'd imagine it's extra time, in which if there is extra time, a bit like the United game, that's an extra half an hour on or already a depleted side with a lack of numbers. Again, Mikel Arteta said at 2 points, the beginning and the end of 2024, we've got one of the smallest squads in the league. What did he say in the build up to the Manchester City game? We came into this season trying to compete on 4 fronts with a squad of 19, where 3 or 4 of them have had long-term injuries. And then he alluded to the last couple of seasons where some have played a lot of games for club and country. It's not making sense. I can't say, Arteta, in the budget you've been allocated, in the theme of fine margins, I can't say you're completely blameless. But then there's something that needs to happen. And even if it was a thing where Arteta said in January last month, I effed up, I made a mistake, we need to get bailed out. Mistakes happen. The owners have probably said, I spent money. We're not going to do that. All our summer signings were on the bench in the biggest game of our season, deep that. And to be fair, I wouldn't say the club are lucky, but winning 5-1 was probably the best thing in it, because had we flipped it, thank the Lord it wasn't that, but flip that and say we got battered 5-1 against City, we all know, obviously, in this market where we would have faced it. And then it's a half-arse bid for Watkins, whether you believe that's a bid just to say we tried, or that was us trying to be a bit smart and outsmart things and kind of pre-guess that it will come towards selling Watkins or Duran. They might elect to keep Duran. It's neither here nor there. Cronkies only want top 4. That was the process all along. Run up the likes. Hyper, you're part of the furniture, man. Appreciate you. Squad is balanced now that we have Ethan and MLS, of course. If City aren't getting relegated, then football is dead either way. City are going to hit back. They have to be the biggest spenders in January. And if they're not the biggest spenders, they're one of the most active. Like them and Aston Villa definitely done a lot. DG, would you sign Partey to a new contract? Because in my opinion, I can't lose both Jorginho or Partey. I think we need experience and their ability in that midfield. It's that age-old thing in that he's in the last year of his deal. You give him a deal and he reverts back to type your issues. At this moment in time, I would, regardless of if we get Zubimendi or not, I would. Do I think that's feasible? Probably not. I think the club I clearly think Mikel Arteta likes him and things like that, and will always find a place for Partey in the squad. But I do think, like with Gabriel Jesus, he's been one of them that the club haven't forced out in the summer windows, but they've been receptive to offers. And the club might just say, you know what? He's on 250 odd grand a week wages. Him, Tini, Zinchenko, Nelson, couple of players, you get them off the wage bill, it starts to look a bit rosier, because added to what I've said about the Cronkies, I know I'm not against being self-sufficient. I'm not against adhering to PSL, but it seemed like there was an overemphasis on that. Even if they don't want to spend on a striker, what about other positions, attacking mid, winger, or even sales? What happened with the Zini links or the academy players not being sent out for development? Victor, these are all questions I wish I had answers. City spent 200 million in Jan, by the way, no outgoings like Villa had. Now, obviously, City is a different ball game, in it, but the very fact that I think Pep Guardiola said, you know what, I effed up in the summer, not doing what I need to do, bail me out. Now, we all know what City do and what Arsenal do are very different. And I remember there was an Athletic report about that, how the board above Pep Guardiola was saying, yo, you need to freshen up the squad and do all of these kind of things. He said no. Now, that's owners that want to win things. So for us, all the variables have to be right. Arteta would have to get everything right. The players would have to get anything right. That's how we win a trophy. I don't think we'll ever win a trophy because of the direct remit from the owners of this club. Obviously, they are the full of, they are the sole owners. They have, everything they do, success and failure indirectly is down to them, but you get the point. So yeah, man, we score 1 against Newcastle, win the game and don't go through. Boy, it'd be nice to get an early goal like in the City game. And then you never know. But I know us, man. Like there's a reality where we score 2 goals and then we concede 1, man. Really. But we'll have to see, man. Hopefully there's a bit of optimism with City, and we've got nothing to lose. We're out already, innit? What I would say is I need to see a better performance at Newcastle or St. James's Park, better yet, than I saw at our place. Because if you think you could do what you did in the first leg, you're going to get eaten alive. We know we're playing against the 12th man. I know there's some injury rumblings around Newcastle, and sentiment around Newcastle at this moment in time isn't extremely positive, but it's one of the nastiest. It's probably the nastiest ground in the Premier League to visit as an away fan, give or take. That and Anfield. I told you, G, we are not signing anyone. Made zero bids. Chill and pray. Prayer. Hope we sign Partey and Trossard to new contracts. MLS and Ethan are assets and have shown their talent as first team players. This does not discount the need to strengthen the front line. Extremely disappointed, and thank the Lord, because we've had a depleted squad. If they didn't take their chances and elevate, where would we be? Because there's a reality, which I'm happy it's not. We're not talking about Ethan where we're talking about our attackers. Calafiori and all these guys are injured, and we're not talking about Lewis Skelly. So thank the Lord. At best, we'll only get Zubimendi coming. That's all the midfield recruitment we'll see, because there's already Rice, MLS, and Ethan, who are all midfielders in reality. You're forgetting Kai Havertz is genuinely seen as an option. And yeah, I think you're bang on the money in that, man. Big up Fam Zone TV. Make sure you're following. Partey needs a 2-year deal. Simple as that. I'm sure Partey would push for that because of his age. You want as long as you get. You want as long as you get. But will the club bet on that? You know, I imagine the club would say, you know what, take a bit of a wage reduction. We'll give you a 1 + 1 year deal, which I would actually want in terms of you sign a 1-year extension. We've got an option of another one, a 2-year one. Because again, as much as I think it's a no-brainer at this moment in time to give him a new deal, if his form is completely different to where it is now next year, what are we saying? And I think Partey's been a good signing for Arsenal, but if I'm honest, there's only been 2 real consistent seasons from him. And that would have been the first year we fought for the league. So what's that? 2022-23, where it was him and Xhaka. And I think he's been one of our best players to date at this moment in time, if I'm brutally honest. I think he's got a case to be Arsenal's. Wouldn't give it to him, but Arsenal's player of the season. Speaking of that, Arsenal fans, we need to start pushing the propaganda, man. We need to start pushing the propaganda for Lewis Skelly to get young player of the year in the Prem. DG, they offered Watkins to us for 60. We were the ones who were only offered 40 and lowballed the offer. Now, in isolation, I'm not against that. I don't think we should be spending 60 million on Ollie Watkins. I'm having him at the club. I think he's Premier League proven. I think he scores goals. I think he makes us stronger. I think where you look at our existing options, but I don't mind that. 60 million, forget about it. Like, I don't mind that. My problem is, cool, the Watkins thing, what else was we trying to do? And I have no doubt that they were trying, but it's a results-driven business. You really tell me if they can look me in my face, which they won't, and say they've exhausted all the options. We tried to go for our summer targets. We tried for these guys. We our scouts brought some unknown guys. We tried, didn't happen. If they can honestly say they've exhausted all their options, then fair enough. But I genuinely don't believe that. I think Mikel Arteta has to hold some L's for his recruitment. But I genuinely think in this current climate, in January, he wanted players. And he was clearly told, because his language is less in sly ways. His language is less diplomatic. It's like, it's clear. He keeps saying it's clear what we want to do. And they've probably said, you know what, no, it's not happening, isn't it? In which indirectly Arteta has to hold that because of this is your team and that. But I think they've shortchanged him. This is why, for me, I think those above Donny just want Champions League football. DG, I think I know why Edu left. That guy secretly sold Tomiyasu, but seriously, we don't even know what's going on with that dude. What's the nature of his injury and how long is he out for? I don't have a clue. DG, summer transfer window, we need at least 5 players now, 2 strikers, 1 centre mid, 1 centre back, and a good left winger. We're not going to sign 2 strikers. Like, we're not going to sign 2 strikers and a centre mid, rightly or wrongly, because Kai Havertz is going to need to play football. Even if he doesn't need to play football, they're going to say we've got Kai. I think a striker is a massive requirement. If I don't see a number 9, that's a talismanic figure. We're not serious. You might as well forget anything any plans you have for 2025-26. Evidently, a winger more suited to play on the left and maybe eating the burden on Saka. Obviously, Ethan can play in a bunch of roles and he's put himself into the mix there. Centre mid, whether Zubimendi happens or not, it's fair to say the club are on that case. I would like another versatile defender as well, because I just think there's been times where you'd like to rest Gabriel or rest Saliba, not necessarily in the Prem, but when the fixtures have kind of been, condensed. Santi Jimenez was there for 35 mil. I can't lie, I don't really rate him like that, but I'll hold my hands up if he does his thing. I think it's clear Arteta wanted the player to come in. I think it's also clear that somebody above him said there'll be no money. And I hear that, but even the foreign loan market, now I can't tell you players you could have got on loan and whatnot, but like I said, man, like, if they can genuinely say that we tried our absolute best to get a player in, I'd say fair enough. I'd still have issues, but I'd say fair enough. I don't believe that's the case, though. Partey needs to be out. New version of Jorginho's form will stay where it is. Half forgot about Havertz midfield is sacked. Big up the ginger bearded one. I'm not surprised with no signings. I'm not, but I am. I'm not because we've been here before. I am because I was of the thought of like, surely, like Saka's injured, Jesus is injured, couple man are injured. There's minutes being loaded in the legs. You're relying on some young players. This is without. I said all of that, and then there's also we have to assume we can't assume everybody, God forbid, but we can't assume everyone's going to stay fit. Injuries can happen at any given time. We've seen Moreno injured in training. We've seen Saka injured on a football pitch. We've heard people are missing due to colds. We've seen people come back and then they're gone, like Tomiyasu. It is what it is. I thought surely, it's gross negligence. It's borderline incompetence. It's even if you just care about top four, and it looks like we're shooting for top four, even if the Cronkies just care about top four, surely want to make sure that you get that. I could see management banking on Dolman and another academy grad to put out some fires in the future. It's true, but these lot are kids, man. Rogers getting that award, unfortunately, DG. Let's just push the agenda and see where we go. We need Hatto, if you ask me. Can't emphasize need enough. He'd be lovely. And maybe, you know what, with Lewis Skelly's emergence, I'd want Tomiyasu to stay for the squad, but you'd imagine Kivio's future is up for debate in the summer. Zinchenko's probably gone, even though them links went kind of quiet in January. I'm definitely missing Kieran Tierney. There's scope for Hatto, obviously, as a centre-half, but you could play left-back. So, DG, what's the point of all of this for us fans if the club ambition is different to us? We support the team, innit? We can't change anything. Like, I'm not sure. We love Arsenal, but we can't change anything, kid it? Like, I don't know what to say to that. Big up yourself, eh? We got new merch. Come on, guys. Have you untold the script? I think you mean, have you seen the script? And number 9, Zubamendi, a backup goalie. That's what it'll be in the summer. In an ideal world, you sort out the goalkeeping situation. Probably need a third choice goalie, but give or take, a young G could be that. But you definitely need, let's just say, at least, I would say 2 goalies. But you need a goalie, you need another centre mid, you need a striker, you need a winger. I think you need another defender. And Arteta might have complete different ideas, really. And even with that, that goes a long way. You get them. Lewis Skelly and Ethan have announced themselves. That's 6 players out in contention. We've got a lot to do in the summer, but I think obviously we're going to get signings, but I'm not going to hold my breath that it's going to be a summer where I'm like, wow, because even in the 2023 season, was it? Kai Havertz and Rice, whichever season they went in, we still didn't do everything that was required, if we're honest. If we're honest, we still haven't replaced Xhaka and Aubameyang. It is what it is, man. Some fans are talking absolute BS. This manager is a weirdo. I might be assuming, but I think this man would rather end trophyless than bringing in any good because they're not the right profile. I disagree with the last part. Big up DG straight from Jamaica. Arteta needs to call out the owners. Big up yourself, Ramon. Big up the JA Tugs tuned in. He's not gonna do that though, are you? Like, you're not gonna do that. Like, at the end of the day, they're paying your wages. You're not gonna do that, really. And let's be honest, there's been times that in other scenarios, Arteta could have been sacked at other clubs. You're not gonna do that, really. Alone Tierney. I'm not sure what you mean here, Natalie. Alone Tierney, Kivio, and Trossard injured 3 this season. I think Arteta didn't want to let Zinni go because he knew we wouldn't sign a player, and that makes sense. There's many players I wouldn't cry if they want to leave. I feel a bit sad for a couple of the Highlanders, obviously excluding the 2 in our team right now, because a couple of you either need to leave permanently or go on loan and advance your career and play senior football. But the club have probably said, forget that. We might need you as a body. So it's a techie one. And even with the Zinni thing, like I said going into January, I wouldn't cry if Zinni left. I hear all of that, especially with Lewis Skelly's emergence. But you can make you can make a case of Tierney leaving, of Tierney leaving, of Zinchenko leaving, of these kind of players leaving. I wouldn't cry. But I don't think it's logical for already a depleted squad to let these things happen in January. Arteta has to hold it down as well, man. He can't escape this after that shocking response in the presser. What is this that you lot keep alluding to, man? I've got Mikel Arteta's press conference here and we'll get into it. You're from Belgium. Don't worry, man. Don't worry, man. You speak 2 languages. Don't worry if you can't, you're not articulating yourself in the best way. I'll go through the conversation, get the gist of it. You know who I feel bad for? The players. They're asking for help. They must be exhausted playing every 3 days, clearly. And obviously, in what I'm about to say, obviously in the moment it didn't feel anything. But when Declan Rice said, "Oh, the managers had to play Tierney as a left winger, I'm sure we're going to bring people in," that tells me the players are thinking what we're thinking, as they must. Arteta wants players, and I'm not absolving Arteta of any blame because you've assembled the squad. We all knew that you have to take it's in your name. But it's the owners. If I guess indirectly, if Mikel Arteta's indirectly put us in a scenario where we have to sell to buy because of maybe certain players being brought in, then fair enough. But where we're at with the Cronkies, man, like, can we sign emergency player if someone gets injured after the transfer close? Nope. Unless you got a free agent, Pogba's available. It is what it is. Shocking response. What did I miss? I don't know, but we can find out. So yeah, let's go through the press conference first and foremost, people. Team news. There's no news from the game against City. Ben White is still out. Hopefully after the break, he will be available. Saka not yet. On if Saka could be back in March, I don't know. On the mood in the camp ahead of the semi-finals, the next step is a final in Wembley. So we know how big that is. You can feel it straight away. The boost the game against City gave us, the manner that we won it, and the fact that it's a game in a competition where we are closest to the final. So we're going to give it a real go. On having to put work into transfers that may help us in the summer, everybody's doing that at this moment in time. Arne Slot came out the other day, and I know Liverpool fans are not necessarily happy with their recruitment. He's come out and said we're building towards the summer. Everybody's doing what they're doing. Agents and clients. Well, sorry, sporting directors. Not that we have one. Are whining and dining potential agents and players, and all of that's going on, man. That's been happening in half of the. If you read between the lines, when half of these players sign for football clubs, they always come out and say, "Oh, the talks happened around November. I went to this one's house, that one's house, I had dinner, this, that, and the third." But he said, we had a clear intention, which is always there. There's a window open to explore opportunities to improve our squad with the players that can impact it. We haven't achieved it, so we are disappointed in that sense. But as well, we are very aware that we only want to bring in certain kind of players, and we have to be very disciplined with that as well. I think that was we disciplined by choice? I don't know. I don't really care about if Newcastle are our bogey team. They're a good team. He said Barcelona was one of his bogey teams. On Arsenal not winning the League Cup since 1993. So I'm born in 95. Never seen that. In the domestic cup, we have an unbelievable record, but historically the League Cup has been difficult and tough. So it's a good opportunity again to make history. On not getting a striker and being confident we can score the goals we need against Newcastle, they are two separate things. One, I think we talk very openly from my side and a club perspective about the intention to improve the squad if we have the capacity to do it. I hear that, but it's half truths. Let's be brutally honest. That's the nature of the business. Then most importantly, to keep improving the team and the individuals within the team, because they're the ones that we have and we love. That's it. And from now, there's no discussion about it, and we'll focus on things that we have continued to do even when the market is open. I don't really care about nerves. If you never had nerves, you wouldn't be human. On the Highlanders, on Lewis Skelly, the players will be best placed to express how they feel about Miles in this particular game because they are sitting next to each other. They share the pitch, which is the most important thing. What I've always said is how they feel about these young players when they come in. Do they trust them? Do they feel like they're stronger with them? And that's the feeling I get when we gave them the opportunity. For me, they're already in our eyes, but in the team's feeling as well, they feel that they can be better with them. Facts, really and truly. How can a manager say that with us being this short? He said it himself 3 months ago. The only advanced planning is the trip to Dubai to meet the sober reality training ground contract. Man's boy, it is what it is, man. We're at on Ethan very much, but with every player, regardless of their age, obviously they each have a different component, especially when they're not even 18. Careful, these 17-year-olds who can't even buy WKD have rattled the internet, and you got grown men like Haaland Senior chatting shit, and you've got, I forgot his name, but I've actually done a preview with him, the City fan, asking Lewis Skelly, put your medals on the table. Lewis Skelly's a better man than me, because I would have added that and said, what's your son doing? What was you doing at 18? What are you doing at this moment in time, chatting shit and letting football make you say mad things? Crazy. Talking about nonsense. Anyways, we call a man a rat face when you look like that as well. It don't make no sense. But anyways, in fact, why for judging next man's looks? But Lewis Skelly, keep doing what you're doing. As parents, I imagine they rely on us to educate them, transmit the right values to them, looking after them, especially protecting them emotionally and physically. It's a lot of responsibility, but thankfully we share it with quite a lot of people, and I think they're in good hands. It's never a Mikel Arteta press conference if he doesn't say that transmit stuff. On whether he is frustrated the club didn't make a signing. Now, this is where you need to see transparency. Arteta, we know you're frustrated. Like, rightly or wrongly, whether it's your fault or not, you clearly are. But there's probably going to be a bit of a diplomatic take here. No, because when you try your best and you do things with the right process and you see the people that we all share the same intentions and wills, and after you don't achieve it, okay, there are things to learn from it. There always are, but you have to move on. That's a piece. That's a piece that was important in the moment, and now we have to move on. And nobody knows whether it's better to have done it or not. We'll find that out at the end of the season. Okay. On whether there's scope to make a sign in the summer, what the hell? I don't know. What I mean about that, in brackets being disciplined, is that in everything, in every kind of profile, in the kind of player that we believe can really make us much better financially, there are a lot of ways that we must stay in the lane that's taken us this far, and from there to try to improve. On whether he's considering using Ethan as a centre forward, he's previously said that he would, and he sees his future as a forward. We're going to have to be very flexible in the front line. It's going to be tough against the Newcastle United centre backs. And now the ones that we have in our feet, make sure they stay fit and keep contributing. Liao can play in that position. Raheem has played in that position. Ethan, I think, can play in that position. Martinelli can play there. So let's see in relation to how everybody is in the moment and the opponent. But at some point, we're going to have to try something different. So that's me. That's you. That's where you see I take that as we couldn't get what I needed in January. I'm going to have to be flexible. That's a PR answer. Failure is failure. Fair enough. On whether he can confirm a trip to Dubai after Newcastle, I think it's coming. On how he'll approach the trip, there are a lot of things that will be similar. The location where we are staying, where we'll train, but of course we'll have to modify it. We're going at a different moment of the season with different numbers, and probably the team needs a different stimulus. So we are preparing a few things, and hopefully it will work like it has the last few times. I wonder if the injured players will go. Like, obviously it all depends where they are in their rehab and all those things. But you know, the Tomiyasus, the Sakas, the Gabriel Jesuses, anyone else that I'm missing out. Just that you're not part. You are part of the squad, but you're not part of the squad. But you'd feel part of the squad. On Ethan approaching the record for most goals scored before 18. I didn't know about that record. The only thing I want from him is that he continues to do what he's been doing and plays with freedom and tenacity when he's on the pitch. He has the ability to make things happen, and whether he does that or not will be a matter of time. Fair enough. On whether the right player wasn't available this window, I wouldn't like to go into too much detail. There you have it. We couldn't do it for certain reasons, and we have to accept it. It was a combination of things. On whether he's worried about upsetting the balance of the characteristics of his squad, no, that wasn't part of it. That wasn't an issue with any player that we're trying to find. On whether it's a gamble not to make the squad bigger, it's not a gamble, it's a reality. We have to face the reality of what we have. We have the players that we have. Some of them are on loan. We have never had a squad of 35, 40, 45 players. So many other clubs have 45 players on their list. We don't have the size at that moment. That's our reality. We have to do so much, but we have so much to do in the last few years. That's where we are. We're going to have to evolve there as well and have more and more players from the academy, and the ones that are here to be fitter longer. That is the job. That's permanent. It keeps evolving, and we have to be on our toes. On whether he's worried that he doesn't have enough numbers to compete. Before reading what you're saying, I think you are. Because you just got to look at what you said at the beginning and end of last year and in the build up to the City game in relation to the size of the squad. But what have you said here? No, now I focus on the number I have, how to maximize them, how to make the best out of them. With all the problems we already have, we're in February, and I think it's remarkable what the team has done, so I have full faith in them. On whether Kai will thrive on being the number one striker, Kai has played so many games and it's been so important when other players, some big players as well, were available. So it's not because a player is not coming into his position that he's going to be more important, in my opinion. It's got nothing to do with that. Take of that what you will, people. Arteta admits Arsenal transfer business has left him disappointed. I mean, I want to see what's going on. We had a clear intention. We have not achieved it. We are disappointed in that sense. Obviously, we bidded for Ollie Watkins. That never happened for whatever reason, people. We're going to get into what the Athletic have said. You know what? Deadline day, even though there was no evidence to suggest we were signing anyone, I must admit, people, I was consistently refreshing in the hope there was a surprise, people. Vote now for January's Player of the Month. You've got Raya, Rice, Martinelli, and Gabriel. Smash the like button, people. But let me know who would you lot give it to? I think Rice has been quality. I'm not sure. Martinelli, you've been okay, but the problems are still there. I'm not sure why you're there. Why is Lewis Kelly not here? Raya, goalkeepers never get the credit. You could be there. I'll give it Gabriel Magalhaes, to be fair with you. But then, you know what? Rice and Gabriel Magalhaes. I'll give it Gabriel, man. I'll give it Gabriel, man. I'll give it Gabriel. played every minute. Martinelli's done what he needed to do. David Raya and Rice mustard, mate. But yeah, Eddie Howe confirms huge Newcastle injury concern ahead of Arsenal semi-final. Joe Linton is sweating, making him sweat in relation to if he's going to be available. He could be a doubt. Our manager plays mind games with players being fit, so I'm not going to take too much stock in what Eddie Howe is saying. When this refreshed, Sam Dean did say yesterday or this morning or whatever, Arsenal could not sign the players they really wanted this month, and they were unwilling to invest in a player they felt would not improve the squad. They worried that buying the wrong man now would prevent them from buying the right man in the summer. If that will refresh. The other financial concern was Gabriel Jesus, who will miss around a year, now cannot be sold in the summer. His high wages meant that Arsenal already committed significant financial resources on two strikers, even though the only one is available to play. Well, if you got Nico Williams and you got Sesko in the summer, you would have had to, with Kai Havertz, who is our striker, you would have had to deal with this anyways. There's no guarantee that Gabriel Jesus would have left. He might have wanted to fight for his spot. So it sounds good. I'm not necessarily against it in isolation, but it's, context always has to be applied with what we're doing on the football pitch. Context also has to be applied with what we're doing off it. And it sounds great in isolation and sympathetic, and I hear that, but it's of little consolation to me. Apparently, we tried to sign Morata, people, and the Athletic came out with a piece, people. Let's see exactly what's going on here. The January transfer window has closed with our Arsenal adding the attacking player they desired. After losing both Bukayo Saka and Gabriel Jesus to significant injuries, Arsenal escalated their efforts to sign a forward. Yet, despite discussions with Aston Villa over a possible deal for Ollie Watkins, the prospect of signing a new striker never came particularly close. Arteta has been clear throughout the window that he hoped for an attacking addition, but the manager and club were aligned on principle that they did not want to make a signing simply for the sake of it. Bringing in bodies doesn't help at all. Just someone who can immediately impact on performance and bring in something we don't have. Boy, fair enough. So it proved. January is a difficult market, as we know. That's nothing new here, and one that has become yet more convoluted. I don't know about that word, but with the club navigating profit and sustainability regulations, Arsenal hoped to exploit a PSR situation to sign Watkins, but Villa ultimately found another way to satisfy the financial regulations. Aside from Watkins, Arsenal ultimately felt the best options simply were not available in January. They did not want to be financially reckless or compromise for a player they did not believe would serve them in the long term. The strategy may be sound, but this is a calculated gamble on the part of the Arsenal hierarchy. You see, when we hear this, on one hand, they have preserved their budget and protected their summer plans, ones they believe will substantially improve the options at Mikel Arteta's disposal. Okay, but what happens if Nico Williams, Sesko, this one and that one, for whatever reason, don't want to sign for Arsenal? Are you going to stay there and say there was no other players? Anyways, people, let's move on. Arsenal know where they want to go and do not believe they'll get there by taking shortcuts. Unpopular opinion, I hear that. You don't think we've taken certain shortcuts already? Anyways, on the other, they have taken a considerable risk here with Jesus already out, and an injury to Kai Havertz would leave Arsenal without a recognised centre forward in the squad. Trossard can play there, but with Saka not expected to be back for some time yet, that would further weaken Arsenal on the flanks. Make sure you're smashing the like button. The wisdom of the wager will be assessed in May. If you don't win a trophy, I don't want to hear this. But when we were fighting for top 4 against Spurs many years ago, we didn't sign a player. Why would we change that now in January? Arsenal's leadership convened in LA in November to discuss, among other things, plans for the January transfer window. Arteta, Tim Lewis, Richard Garlick all made the trip. They were joined by Jason Ito, who had stepped in as interim sporting director just days prior after the resignation of Edu. At that stage, Arsenal's vision for the window was to lean into the long term, to try to recruit development players who could flesh out the existing squad, but also deliver value over the coming years. The primary targets under discussion were two 18-year-olds, Brazilian centre-back Victor Reis, who signed for City, and considering the fee there, you would have had to spend something significant, and Norway international Napan, who elected to stay for whatever reason. We heard he toured all the clubs and whatnot. Maybe he felt it's not the right time to make a decision or to leave the Norwegian division. Maybe none of these clubs actually placed a bid. We'll never know. There was also, however, an acknowledgement that the January window is often about being reactive and attending to the immediate needs of the squad. When Saka tore his hamstring on December the 21st, that makes me want to cry, actually. Arsenal's plans were thrown into doubt. When Gabriel Jesus injured his ACL on the 12th of January, the search for a new striker intensified. In the intervening period, Manchester City had stolen March on Royce. Arsenal had watched him extensively, including having an in-game present at the Palmeiras game versus Corinthians on the 5th of November. At that time, Arsenal was seen as his most likely destination. But we've seen what's that book in school in primary school, man, about the hare and the tortoise. Anywho, people, I don't know about any of that. So yeah, that happens. People's targets get stolen all the time. We've stolen targets and we've had them robbed. But there was debate over how finances should be allocated. Arsenal entered January with a sizable but finite budget, especially given summer plans to move for Real Sociedad midfielder Martin Zubimendi. Ito and new director of football operations James King have picked up the baton from Edu in Zubimendi talks, and Arsenal remain strongly positioned to win the race for the Spain international signature. You better make sure you get that one over the line. Some at Arsenal, including Arteta, felt the resource should be reserved in case it was needed to attend to an immediate needs of the first team. Race would have cost around 30 million. Even before Jesus went down injured, Arteta had concerns about spending that much on a player who was unlikely to be a difference maker for Arsenal this season and in a position in which Arsenal already had considerable depth. Fair enough. But who could they sign to bolster their attack in January? Arteta was insistent. He simply did not want a body. He wanted a player who improved the squad. My problem is, I hear that, Arteta. To have the responsibility placed on a young Ethan with what we're at with Trossard and Martinelli, Kai Havertz, was there really no one? I hear what you're saying, Arteta, but was there really no one that could improve us? I don't know. I can't tell you bare names, but yeah. And one thing that's frustrating is like these think pieces. It's like clockwork where Arsenal concerned. But in the name of content, we're here, people. Smash the like button and don't forget to turn on your notification bells, people, because obviously we will be doing a watch along tomorrow, people. So I hear that. As much as I want stars of tomorrow, I hear that. But yeah, people, anywho, same way you're assessing, it's another example of us actually being good at finding young defenders. I'm sure Rice will show his quality for City, but we couldn't find a young winger. I don't know, people. But yeah, moving on. Arteta's preferred candidate apologies. Alexander Isak was simply out of reach. Inquiries around Benjamin Sesko, who Arsenal continue to follow closely, did not receive an encouraging response. Leipzig viewed selling their star player in mid-season as unthinkable. Having committed to a new contract in June 2024, Sesko was intent on seeing out the campaign in Germany. Fair enough, you've got stability. I hear that. And you also got to remember, people got to move families and do all of that jazz. We can't always be nice. I'm not finding an excuse because I think on one hand, bro, if you really want to sign for Arsenal or a big club, you go and make that happen. But in reality, this is a job. People got families. People might be in a good run of form. They might want to assess all the options, really. And obviously a club. Leipzig don't care what Sesko is going to do beyond what he's doing now. So we can talk with him as much as he want. If you're Leipzig, you want Man United, Chelsea, Arsenal to all create some sort of bidding war, people. So yeah, man, it's neither here nor there. The possibility of a deal for Watkins was first floated during conversations between the two clubs' hierarchies at the Premier League game between the teams on the 18th of January, which ironically we saw in bag. Villa were always likely to sell one of Watkins or Duran this window. Emre had struggled to accommodate both in his starting lineup and allowing one to leave would ease Villa's PSR issues. Smash the like button. Villa already in talks with Al Nassr about a possible transfer for Duran, but with some degree of doubt over whether that deal would come to fruition. We're prepared to entertain the prospect of selling Watkins to Arsenal for 60 mil. They tried Zangos. Mikel Arteta jumped at the idea. So, boy, if you can find 60 million, we really can't. Oh, what's going on? There's a bit of inconsistencies in this report, if I'm honest. Although Watkins had never previously featured on Arsenal's recruitment list, despite us being linked with him, the manager reasoned that here was a Premier League proven goal scorer who could hit the ground running. A deal would scrupper any summer move for Sesko, but with the club's need for attacking additions becoming urgent, that was a risk the manager was prepared to take. For all of the 21-year-old Slovenian's potential, he comes with few guarantees. Watkins, 29, was seen as an established, experienced player who could help Arsenal win now. Approval for Watkins was not ununanimous. Some argued against paying a sizable fee for a player who turns 30 before the end of 2025. There were some concerns over his limited resale value and impact on future plans. So we're really not going to, unless it's a Trossard or Jorginho deal, all this future proofing. As much as we want players to win us trophies now and impact now, there's clearly that element of what they're going to be tomorrow in it, which you can see existing players, Lewis Skelly, Ethan Nwaneri, Bukayo Saka, William Saliba, the list goes on in it. Fair enough. As often is the case at Arsenal, Arteta's stance won out. Josh Kroenke arrived in London to join a recruitment meeting a few days after the Villa game, and a firm decision was made to pursue Watkins. So that tells me that really Arteta holds a lot of weight. He says, don't spend it on Rice. Go as much as you can for Watkins. We're kind of at his mercy. We know Watkins is a boyhood Arsenal fan. We know he's going to be excited about the prospect of joining us. We all know at this point, we bidded 40 million. It was short of the valuation. It wasn't going to happen. Allegedly, Arsenal intended to bid again, but when El Nasser definitively decided to close the deal with Duran instead of buying Leverkusen's Victor Boniface, the Watkins transfer was suddenly off the table. By the time the news of Arsenal's interest in Watkins broke, the deal was already effectively dead. Alongside the Watkins deal, Arsenal attempted to sign Napan from Rosenborg. The highly regarded midfielder was in Haaland's box at Manchester City versus Chelsea on the 25th of January, and subject of interest from the City group side Girona, which, come on now, Girona, it's really City. City park you off there. You'll play. If you're good enough, you'll join these lot in England. If not, you'll be sold. As well as, ironically, Aston Villa. During a trip to England, Nepan met with Arsenal to hold in-person discussions. He returned to Norway without making a definitive decision on his future, and later communicated a decision to stay with Rosenborg until the summer and consider his options. A choice Arsenal reflected, which it's become the theme now, really. Nepan has not played since early December and feels he will manage to transition better in the summer when he has full fitness. Nepan's suitors remain interested in him, and a decision could be made in the coming months. Nepan and his father will assess interested clubs by 6 key criteria. The 2 most important will be how wanted he is by the club and the player's gut feeling. Really, that's nothing unique to him, and big up them. That's what you should be doing. They also factor in playing time, social life away from football, the leagues. I mean, you got bare Norwegian dons in England, so you can link up with people, the league status and media pressure. I mean, if you're going to sign for City, Arsenal, Aston Villa, there's going to be media pressure. And the economics of the deal. Each club will receive scores in each category, and that will inform their fans' decision. Now, big him up for doing that, yeah? Fuck all of this for some 17, 18-year-old. I can't believe there's bare paragraphs in this. Like, big him up. I'm sure he's got potential and all of this, but come on now. What is all of this? What is all of this? I rate that from a development point of view, but this is an idiot thing. The clubs that are very interested are also very understanding of his choice to delay and think it's completely okay, said his dad. Napan or Savare should be his first name, should be part of a long-term project and a generational change. He wants to think long-term. This is his whole life. If there's uncertainty before the third, why the hell should we make a choice? I rate that. Do your thing, man. Watkins was out of reach. 5 days remaining of the window. At this point, we had to go back to the drawing board. I wonder how much facts and how much fiction is in when specifically the Athletic or these people are writing these things. I don't know. When they traveled to Spain for last week's Champions League game with Girona, they held talks with the reps of Espanyol goalkeeper Garcia. So it's fair to say we're going to go for him again after trialing and failing last year to get him. In the same meeting, Arsenal expressed an interest in another of the reps' clients, Alvaro Morata. They're interested in a loan deal for AC Milan's 32-year-old striker. The indications were that Milan would have been prepared to sanction such a deal, but Arsenal were beaten to the punch by Galatasaray. Dang. And they got Osimhen and that. How? The Turkish team were emphatic that they wanted Morata and wanted him now. Arsenal did not have the same conviction and wanted a moment to take stock. So, fair enough. Morata was hearing positive signals from over them sides. It made sense. I hear that because the Morata thing would have been a loan from outside of England. So that would have, I won't say Morata would have been perfect, but it would have been perfect with the dynamics that we know are at play, clearly. And yeah, they told us about, we've heard about Zubimendi here, Garcia, the fact that we like Isaac and Sesko, Napan. We actually haven't learned anything here that we haven't seen, man. This is just a lot of jargon, man. There must be a word count for what they're doing here. Outside of Watkins and Morata, there were not many available forwards in the market who piqued Arteta's interest. Arsenal previously admired Ferguson, but were not able to take him on loan, having already signed Raheem Sterling and Neto on temporary deals. His signing would have also been a gamble on its own, given his struggles for form and fitness. Arsenal were contacted by intermediaries to assess their interest in signing Tel from Bayern Munich. Although they're aware of Tel's credentials, they did not view him as a number 9. I prefer him on the left, and felt his relative lack of experience might make it difficult for him to make an impact at this season's climax. It was ultimately a quiet January for Arsenal, dry Jan, which some of you are undertaking. At the end of December, they had a brief window in which they were able to recall Fabio Vieira from his loan with Porto, but they decided against it. Arsenal fielded interest from Borussia Dortmund in a loan for Zinchenko, but were only prepared to consider a permanent deal. Celtic were keen to bring forward Tierney's free transfer to January, but Arsenal and Tierney decided together he would remain with Arteta squad until the summer. There's still cause for, I mean, yeah, man, like, big up the two Lenders. We hope Saka is back to feature at some point. Having initially planned to use the window to recruit younger development players, they later pivoted to adding an experienced forward. Arsenal ultimately chose to proceed with neither. We got neither done, really. Making failure in that regard sound good. The decision to keep the powder dry places significant emphasis and even pressure on their summer transfer window. They hope to secure the signing of 50 million midfielder Zubimendi. Their interest in targets such as Nepan and Garcia is ongoing. Crucially, the centre-forward position will be addressed. Their admiration for Isak remains, and they'll continue to be in a strong position on Sesko. It is also not beyond the realms of possibility they return with a bid for Watkins. The positive is that when it comes to the summer, Arteta and Arsenal should have some choice about which striker they pursue. The January transfer window may be closed, but the work on Arsenal's summer continues. For now, it will be led by Jason Ito. It has been an interesting month for him, a real-time job interview in which he had to balance the needs of the squad with long-term strategy. A signing might have earned him more credibility externally, so with our fans, but his jurisdiction, this may win admiration internally. Arsenal will now continue the sporting director recruitment process with a view to making an appointment before the summer, which I hope is a Solskjaer guy, and I hope is sooner rather than later. There's an acknowledgement this will be a big summer for Arsenal. We said that last year, but it is that it has to be. They have left themselves with work to do. Before that, they're still in the fight for silverware this season. The morning after Wednesday's Yarabel semi-final second leg at Newcastle, the squad depart for warm weather training camp in Dubai. So we're going straight from Newcastle to Dubai. Arsenal's forwards will need rest and respite. Their fitness, Havertz especially, is now utterly vital to the club's chances of success. So what have we made of that, people? We learned a lot of things there. We didn't go for Watkins any more than we did. Ornstein said on Watkins, naturally, these things are not easy when it gets to such a late point in the window. Clearly, Villa gave Arsenal the opportunity to do this deal or have the conversation on the basis of a 60 million possibility. I hear that. I'm not on paying 60 million for Watkins. My thing is what? They weren't a young, impressionable done, because when the summer comes, Zubimendi, Nico Williams, Sesko, all of them things. But they're the Athletic and all these people, they're going to talk about names that we're not talking about now, people. What do you lot think of that? Smash the like button. That was something clearly Arsenal were not prepared to do at that value for a 29-year-old who in their eyes is probably not that worth that much. They decided to suggest around 40 million. Villa were being serious when they suggested 60 because that's where they value him. And if they need to make the numbers work, they tried to zang us. We were in a position where we're desperate. They tried to zang us in it and we didn't go for it. We are still being linked with Isak. We've been indirectly linked as well as Newcastle with Justin Kluivert. Arsenal have also reportedly been monitoring Kluivert, who has lit up the Premier League with 11 goals this season. But we'll have to see. Did that say Liverpool are interested in Barcelona and Arsenal interested in Isak? I was about to say, how greedy Liverpool, especially if Salah signs a new deal. Imagine Salah and Isak. Forget about it, people. Allegedly, I don't believe this, but this claims we tried to hijack the Evan Ferguson deal. We weren't going to put the P's down to buy him permanently. We can't get him on loan. It sounds good, but I don't think that's the case, people. So yeah, man, it is what it is. And I do think Arteta is messed up at times, but through his language throughout January, to be fair, and he has to hold that, I do think he's been indirectly crying for stuff. I think we've been very clear from every angle what we want to do. The other one is the reality and what we are able to do. So what these lot wanted to do in terms of the names that was being dropped, we didn't do it. In terms of scouting and forward planning, it didn't happen. You tried to go for young players, you didn't get them. Tried to go for experienced dons, didn't get them. We all know about the Watkins thing. Allegedly, Jorginho has signed a pre-contract agreement to join Flamengo in the summer when his contract with Arsenal runs out. Nico Williams remains Arsenal manager Mikel Arteta's priority signing for the summer. We've gone over the Player of the Month stuff. We've gone over the Zubimendi stuff. I wanted to ask you lot, yeah, do Aston Villa have better depth than us? Would you lot say they got better depth? They brought in Asensio. Well, they brought in the top three. These three came in, innit? In Marlon, Rashford, Asensio. They held on to Watkins. Rodgers is a bad boy. Leon Bailey's Jamaican, so I'll always back him. And, we're not City, but they spent 210 million euros. I would have loved Marmoush. See, even if I mean you don't know when the groundwork was done in it, but would have loved him. They obviously got Nico Gonzalez. Apologies, they got that Krasnodov guy, and they signed Victor Roy. So it's nice, man. Tell would have to agree to join Tottenham permanently in order for them to be able to exercise their option to buy in the summer. That was part of the agreement. People apparently Bayern will receive a loan fee worth up to 10 million euros for Tell. At first, a straight loan was considered, but then Spurs insisted on an option to buy, which Bayern set at 60 million euros, previously agreed. So, yeah, they weren't that convinced to go and do that. Lewis Skelly's in line to get called up for England. Big him up. Hope he does do that. All hopes are with Ethan, people. You know, Arsenal players in all comps. For goals, he's first. For shots, he's first. Shots on target, he's first. Shots, he's shot accuracy rate and shot conversion rate. And the wickedest thing is, yeah, when you go beyond Bukayo Saka, we all know where we're at with Kai Havertz, but Kai Havertz is up there for goals. Ethan's been in the first team 2 minutes, and he's obviously a young player. But this shows the problem. You can hide behind the fact that we got 90 odd goals and we can thump teams up. Maybe I didn't know we'd thump up City by 5 goals, but you can't sit there and lie. I don't quite agree it papers over the cracks, but it does. It is what it is, man. We knew what time it was, man. We knew what time it was. We were previously in the summer linked with Tim Stelden, with the sporting director's job. Apparently, he's left West Ham. I don't think he's our first choice, but nonetheless, don't be surprised if you see us linked with him again. Eddie House told Newcastle to leave a legacy, boy. And I mean, the transfer window's over, so I don't think anyone cares. But let's see if there's anything else, man. Well, it's frustrating, ain't it, for Arsenal fans, man? What's this? Oh, sorry, we've seen that with Arteta being disappointed already. I mean, you know what? Why not, in it? Apparently, we eyed a late transfer for Osimhen. Maybe. Oh, sorry, Morale. Yeah, we've gone over that. So it doesn't appear that there's anything new in the transfer news. So yeah, man, that's what we've learned today, isn't it, people? There's money in the accounts for prosperity, but this is the cash for spending. Big up Orlando. I don't think we're going to stop Liverpool, but we can hope. You can't ask the best in their fields in any occupation to work on the cheap. They'll tell you to jog on. I've done it. I wonder if that quality is going to be coached out of the young players. Boy, even the Nico deal, so release clause, pay it or move on. You know his wage demands, either meet it or move on. Also, if you want top talent, you have to pay top dollar. That's true. But then in the summer, rightly or wrongly, my issue is pivoting. By all means, go after Nico Williams. If that's your first choice, I get it. But we're not Real Madrid. There has to be other targets. You know, even Real Madrid have been told no, like Lenny Yoro. They've made it happen. You know, get it done. Because as much as I feel pay the release clause, you have to remember players have got to want to move. Players have got to be enticed by signing for Arsenal, and they've all got other options. My thing is pivoting. You know, if you wanted Sesko, you know you need a striker coming into the season. If you know you wanted Sesko, he's your first choice. Great. But pivot once it becomes clear it can't be done. Because if you don't pivot, you're telling me we've got enough and we're kind of resting on our laurels. And I have to judge you appropriately. I'm not a fly on the wall at Arsenal. I'm not privy to knowing everything, but I can only comment on what I see. Zubimendi, Williams, and Sesko, and maybe Napan. Does that summer window make up for the missed opportunities in the current season? I wouldn't say it makes up, because unless you win a Prem or a Champs, it's another year of a missed opportunity. But I would feel happy in the summer with those signings naturally. Throwing another defender. It's always nice. Funny how the Watkins bid news came out after Duran was basically done. I'm 100% positive if a bid was placed, it was done fairly early in the window and it came out weeks later. And I think the Athletic kind of echoed what you're saying there. Obviously, the Jan window is difficult for various reasons, but no excuse for the summer window. We are very slow and sluggish in how we do things. Guys, I don't want to lie to you. This Napanu looks generational. The obvious heir to KDB or Modric. The club will chase him shamelessly. Go and get it done, man. Real talk, you had your opportunity, you missed it, being indecisive. Arteta's obsessed with Sesko, and we really think we put a bid in for Watkins, not buying it. I'm not trying to hear that kid's name in the summer. We tried FC. But I don't mind signing Napan. I always believe in future planning. I'm not going to act like I know everything about him, but if he's got the ability and you sign him for a 10 mil and he can progress into our first team and be mentioned in the realms of the other players, great. If you sign him for 10 mil and he's good and he's not quite good enough and you sell him for 30, keep it moving. But simultaneously, you need players for now. And I do think as a club and as fans, we're always trapped in tomorrow, in the next day and the next day and the next day. So like, I get it. I, of all people, get it. Resale value, long-termism, etc., etc. But there's also a point where you have to deliver now. It's a bad look for a big club to chase a kid all window. To be fair, everyone seems they're interested in him, man. Just pay the money and move on. Oh, that's for someone else. We didn't even go for market opportunities. No, dead at 18, you get a call from a big club, you go, or you miss it out in the summer. I'd say, no, you had your chance. I hear that, and there is logic to that, Jerome, and I agree with that. But on the other hand, when I remove my ego, I get it. You know, this is an important step. If everybody, this is the reality, any half decent kid, everyone's going to be onto you. Everybody wants to sign you. You're going to listen to what Arsenal, United, City, this one, that one says. And I feel when naturally these clubs probably try to apply a bit of pressure, you've got to do it. If he's saying he's unsure, if he's saying because of how the Norwegian league, you know, he wouldn't be fit, bearing in mind, forget the January window, impacting the team from January is difficult. I actually hear it. And if you're really that good and you're 18 or however old you are, you're not going anywhere. Teams are going to be interested. What I hope, though, Odegaard, make sure you're calling him. To be fair, I haven't bought Arsenal merch in years. Stuff looks dope, but hella overpriced. Almost pulled the trigger on that Arsenal XR jacket. I can't lie. One thing we're consistent in is making some nice clothes. We are effing market opportunities, not the players on the market. Get the Zen MLS t-shirt print coming soon to a merch store near you. Stay humble, limited edition sweatshirts out there. You lot are silly. I don't believe across all European leagues that no one could have been identified at a reasonable cost. I'm with you with that. I'm not disappointed. I'm more so surprised they wouldn't back the manager and players. It's like having two flat tires and they're saying, I'll roll with it for now. And you have the money. This club, they talk such nonsense about market opportunities. Rubbish. The market opportunity is us, the fans, get that merch. Issue 49. I just ran a Google search for the Zubameni deal. It says Arsenal remain confident over Zubi transfer plans. Be as confident as you want. But until I see that you signed that deal, I don't want to hear nothing really. And just make sure you pivot. DG, check this out. I'd have to send it again, my guy. I'd have to, in fact, let me try and find your comment. I have to, oh, there it is. Don't worry. I have to scroll on the YouTube tab versus actually StreamYard. The fuck is this? Let me see this. And you know what? Yeah, big up all the ITKs because I'm not saying, I'm not condoning you lot. I'm not condemning you lot. I know a lot of you think you know everything and whatnot, but blood, all of you, what the? I manage, bro. All these are done. I'm not saying he's wrong, but bro, a guy that's got a good imagination, probably has some mushrooms or smokes some weed, comes online. There's no way of fact checking this. There's no way of fact checking this. I really don't want to read this. But I'm going to do it for you, lot. Smash the like button and subscribe and tell a friend to tell a friend. I've read a lot of Discord this morning and last night around why Arsenal haven't bought anyone. I agree with what some people are saying around needing a sporting director now that Edu isn't there. But I think we have broader issues that are not necessarily hard to fix, but have hampered us in the last 3 windows. I'll go back to the all or nothing when DOF Richard Garlick is discussing with Edu about releasing Aubameyang. It is Tim Lewis who has to sign it off. Lewis was tasked by KSC to keep our business above board following the diabolical that Raul Sanye led with dodgy deals, including the overpaying on Pepe. The deal created the valuation risk aversion. This deal gave Lewis the power to prevent spend over perceived value and sales under perceived value. He needed persuading by Richard Garlick, Edu, and Mikel Arteta that Aubameyang going for free was the best. Okay. Fast forward to the summer 2022, and we are now bidding for Lisandro Martinez. As soon as that price hits 38 and still no agreement, we immediately walk away and get Zinchenko, which is fair to say. I mean, that's an example of pivoting, but I hear that. The other option at 35 million was the hard top-end valuation limit stop given by Tim. I hear all of this, yeah, and I agree with everything around the Cronkies or whatever, but the same token to that is, if you, whether it's Edu Arteta, right? You signed for this company, bro. This is the, rightly or wrongly, this is the company ethos. Regardless of all of this, is this the reason why we didn't win the Prem last year? Is this, you know, is there some things you've done? Obviously, it comes from the above, but this is my point. There's questions to be asked of the gaffer, the Cronkies, and everybody else. Nobody is above criticism. I've got a lot more time for Arteta than the Cronkies, because even if people, and I'm not saying to keep Arteta, they want him sacked. The new manager might, of last year or the year before, even this year, won us a league title, but we wouldn't be set up for sustained success. As I said earlier, I think if we won the league last year, I think we still have the same summer, and I don't think that's because of the manager. Anywho, and you know what? I'm not gonna lie, this sounds kind of believable because some of these points I kind of believe, but I can't trust it because you got a blue tick and it's not a real human in your display picture. But anyways, The winter window of 23 removed for Caicedo. We were prepared to pay 75 million. We were also prepared to pay 80 million for Mudryk. Thank the Lord that didn't happen. These top-end valuations must have been agreed with the whole team. We landed neither, but brought in Jorginho, who Mikel always wanted as a player. Trossard, who was a market opportunity to provide cover for the injured Jesus. And Kivior, he was seen as a good rotation project for left centre-back. Summer 23, and we land Kai and Giroud at their valuations. Kai Havertz was... So it was only a 5 million discount. You know what? Fair play, Chelsea. That 5 million, you can call that the cost of winning the Champions League. Timber, cool. Nah, Timber, no complaints. That's cool. That is cool. Timber, we might even owe them some more money. And I actually, how any of them players there, anyone that's on what Timber's on, you give us a bell, mate. We then pay 30 million over the perceived value of Rice. I hear that, but you knew when it comes to guys like Rice, whether it's the English tax, whether it's the fact that he means a bit more to West Ham, on some cases you're going to have to overpay. Mikel Arteta and Edu drove hard for this, and it must have hurt Lewis to sanction. This transfer, in my eyes, changed our business for the last 3 windows. It made us have to chase sales even though we had money, which I hear that because there seemed like there was an emphasis on sales in the summer. Winter 2023, everyone thinks we need a striker. We don't buy Tony. We stay as we are. And Mikel first uses the term, we must only bring in the right players who add the value to the squad. That's where I think at the end of the day, Arteta, no one put a gun to your head to be at this job. You have to hold smoke. But at the same time, I do think, you're every now and then in little ways, you're kind of saying that, I'm under duress here. Fair enough. Summer 24, and this is where we get the disconnect between the manager and recruitment. He's given options that do not fit his needs. Something in the model is wrong. Edu is offering Rodrigo Munoz as an option up front when it's clear Arteta wants Sesko, who fits his criteria perfectly. Now, to be fair, Edu's not here to stick up for himself, and Munoz looks decent at Fulham, but come on now. And is not available. The secondary options presented are just not good enough. James Ellis, Jason Ito, and Edu are bringing options to the table that are just not the players Arteta wants. So maybe Arteta could pivot. Maybe this is unacceptable. I don't think you can 100% blame Edu, Jason Ito, or Mikel Arteta, or anyone. Everyone's in this together. It's just a bit of a mess at this moment. He insisted on Moreno because he wants Declan Rice to roam, destroy, and build. He needs another dual winner to supplement him. Edu doesn't agree, and it all ends with Arteta winning the argument and Edu gone. So again, not everyone can be right all the time. Shouldn't have got Moreno. I hope in the future he proves everyone wrong. There are other issues in the summer of 2024. Rafinha won't join because he wants guaranteed playing time. Edu can't negotiate this and we lose out. We are offered Neto and wait too long. We undervalue Onana and miss that and extend Jorginho instead. Then there is sales. The team, realizing the strategy and options don't align, decide to hit the SCCR button and sell now whilst we can attract buyers. We end up short on squad numbers. Winter 2025, we need a wide player and a forward. We chase Mikel Arteta's first option of Sesko, not available. We get offered Watkins, who we value at 40, but Villa wants 60. If Arteta really wanted Watkins, would he have pushed the board Lewis to sanction this? I think he would. We need to change the ID model to match Arteta and blur the upper valuation limit line. This is on everyone to make a small change. Most of all, we need a sporting director who is elite. But to be fair, of all these maniacs online, I hear that. But that could all be nonsense. He could have made that all up. He could be a scriptwriter. I don't know. Rice done right. This guy's right, by the way. That Rice transfer is the one that changed everything. Perhaps Arteta is trying to show upper management how valued he is. It's true, but then, like, what makes you 160? Like, again, I know it's not the same. And I know Kai's got more years in the legs and whatnot. But what's better off overpaying for? And again, the times are different. What's better off paying for? Paying 60 million for Watkins, which, okay, cool. Couple of years, he's got less legs in the tank than Kai Havertz, or overpaying for Kai Havertz. And although Mikel Arteta has been short-handed there, you won the Moreno battle. It just seems like everybody, you know what they say, too many chefs in the kitchen spoil the pot. Havertz's valuation would have been 70 million to Chelsea. If Aubameyang had scored 4 more goals that season from Jan to the end, we would have secured top 4. We barely missed out. Definitely wasn't the best decision. This club has poor management. Liverpool will have a wobble, but that's assuming we don't. Aubameyang going for free definitely wasn't the best. He could have got off his top 4 that season coming off the bench. Martinelli can go too. Let's say that. It sounds cold, but I'd rip up Jesus and Tomiyasu's contract, sell Zinni, bin Jorginho, and line up summer transfers now. Terms agreed now. But again, Gabriel Jesus is contracted until 2027. You might be able to reach a compromise, but to rip up his contract, they're not going to do that. They're not going to pay him out. They're not going to pay out Tommy Asu's contract, then bring in players. It sounds good, Jerome, but it's not going to happen, though. Arteta needs to be ruthless. If you have the vision of a squad you want and you have others that can't get it done for you, you may have to sacrifice. Now, being devil's advocate without context, managers have left clubs if they're not getting their way, you know. So how far does that go? Rise of Haaland came at the wrong time. They think they don't have to add to it, which is silly. Mbappe did reject a whole host of clubs. Both Villa and City have done what Arsenal can't. Sell a striker at a high bid, Duran and Alvarez. Jesus says, Havertz, how much would they go for? I hear that, but there's not a market. Maybe it's because of how they're playing and whatnot, but there's probably more of a market for Havertz, but there's no market like that for Jesus and my man. Facts, if you want the goal, I think Gallen, she says, no, you pivot. Next one. And this is it. So it sounds good. I think Rice is a 6. I think he's in a great spot of form in the role he's at now. I definitely think he's doing well in the 8. I'm slowly but surely being converted, but his bread and butter is where it is. Havertz has good ceiling, good potential. Anyone buying him can say, if I can get that version of Havertz consistently, suddenly the signing is justified. Probably what happened in the boardroom. I hear that, but he's a big man to be talking about potential. And I know Arteta wants versatile players, but if we were to name Arsenal's strongest 11 with a striker and a winger and the midfielders we need, is Kai in any of them? It's good for the squad, though. I think Kai at this point, beyond healthy criticism of a player, I can't ask anything more of Kai. I can't. I know Arteta talks about squeezing lemons, bro. The lemon juice is done, innit? So yeah, man. It is what it is as Arsenal fans, man. Like, we're at where we're at with it, man. But on that note, I'm kind of depressed. Not depressed. Let me not say that, but I'm a bit downbeat, people. So yeah, I don't want to waste you lot's time with my negative energy. But please make sure you're smashing the like button. Don't forget to subscribe. I appreciate you lot making sure the ongoing news is being fed into the chat, commenting, difference of opinions, all of that good stuff. Should have a video coming out with a menu later today, so turn on your notification bells, and I'll see you lot all when I see you lot tomorrow. It's live from 7 p.m. We go to war against Newcastle, man. Peace.
Always